Okay, we all set. Ryan,
Cool.
can you hear me? Ian, can you hear me?
Yes.
All clear?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to start it off now with Ryan Sands, who's gratefully taken the time out to talk about his home run, amongst lots of other really exciting things. So, yeah, we're going to kick things off. Ian, why don't you get going?
Yeah, so as most of you already know, Ryan is a highly accomplished athlete with Salomon. He has an incredible list of achievements in his career since he started off more than 10 years ago, which we'll get to in a moment. But first, I just want to extend a thanks to him for being gracious enough with his time to come on and speak about his recent home run, which was this incredible, epic 100 miles that he ran around his house while under lockdown, like most of us currently are. So Ryan, could you maybe tell us a little bit about the current coronavirus situation in South Africa and what it's been like?
Yeah. Hey guys. Yeah. Great to be chatting and looking forward to it. Yeah. And unfortunately, the situation here now is we still are under lockdown. Things have been relaxed for the last week in terms of previously we weren't allowed to leave our houses at all, just to go to the shops, and so even exercise you had to do within your property or kind of within in your home. But yeah, the last week we've been allowed to exercise for 3 hours in the morning within a 5K radius from our homes, but we're not allowed to go onto the mountains or any national park. So it's basically running along the road. Which actually has been feeling like pretty good, just to kind of get out there and feel like you're moving. But really missing the mountains. But I guess kind of most importantly, just I guess we all got to get through this and safety first.
Yeah, and so what does the typical training week look like for you now these days? You mentioned no access to trails or roads even, or minimal.
So we had 5 weeks of that kind of like complete lockdown where I wasn't allowed to leave the home, and I did a bit of kind of garden running or kind of running around my home a little bit, but I didn't really feel it was kind of great like running. So I kind of rather focus more on getting a good strength block of training in. So I was doing like 3 to 4 strength sessions a week, and then also doing some stuff. I've got some entrance stairs, like 23 flights of stairs. So I was doing a lot of stuff on there with kettlebells and stuff like that, really just to try and get a strength block in, and then hopefully kind of be stronger for when we are allowed to run again. I just felt like trying to force running kind of in 100-meter circles wasn't really going to achieve a lot. I was still doing a little bit and like did a couple of fun things, and I guess would also, I probably do like on average, like maybe 3 kilometers a day or so. But really, as I say, like mainly focusing on strength. So I think that, and then obviously the last week where we have been allowed to run properly again, it's more just I've been out running on the roads and just kind of trying to get into some kind of rhythm again. And just take it from there. I guess I haven't been like over like even this last week, and even until I guess I know what's happening with kind of the racing season and what's going on, I haven't really kind of tried to push the volume of training too much. I think I'll wait and see what's happening with UTMB and a few other races, and then maybe look at getting a more specific kind of running block in, but definitely not like over forcing the volume and running too long, because I feel at the same time it's also a good period to focus on specific things and then also give your body a rest. I don't think there's any point in like trying to run like 150-mile weeks and you're not actually kind of going to use that towards anything.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. And so before we get into home run proper, I thought it'd be great for everyone to find out a little bit know a little bit more about yourself. So how would you describe yourself as an ultra runner?
How would I describe myself as an ultra runner? I guess probably a slow starter, and like many things, I guess I only got into running pretty late in my life. I think I ran my first ultra when I was 26 years old, and up until then did very little running. At school, played a lot of rugby and always enjoyed the outdoors, did a lot of surfing. So it was only really last year at university that I got into. I ran a marathon and then actually really enjoyed that. And then living in Cape Town, having Table Mountain on my back doorstep, kind of got into that very quickly. So yeah, I guess that's a bit of my history.
Yeah, that's a very modest summary, I would say. So I read that you've run and won ultra races on all 7 continents, and I've got to ask you, what's been your favorite place to run and why?
Yeah, that's that's quite a tough one, because I think like every place is unique. But if I had to, like, I guess, pick one area, I've kind of really enjoyed Chile, and just the variety in Chile. Like running in the Atacama Desert was kind of pretty epic. But then also in Chile, being able to go to the Torres del Paine National Park in like Patagonia, and kind of, for me, Patagonia is one of the most pretty places I've ever run, and kind of there's kind of not a lot of people there. It's quite kind of rugged and remote. So I think Chile does come to mind. But also really enjoy areas like kind of Lake Tahoe area in California. Kind of the Chamonix area is also really pretty. But yeah, I think I've been lucky to run in some pretty cool places like Antarctica or the Amazon jungle, kind of Sahara deserts. So yeah, I've been lucky that kind of just running's taken me to some pretty crazy and amazing places you probably wouldn't choose to go on your average family holiday there.
Yeah,
That's really nice, Ryan. And you've done so many races, and I think before we get into your sort of single-minded home run, which is a 100-miler, I just want to take this time to reflect back on probably one of the most iconic 100-mile races that you did, the Western States, a couple of years ago. There was so much happening during the course at that point. There was bits of snow, there was lots of different weather changes. Can you just share a little bit about how it felt and the entire experience itself?
Yeah, I guess for me, like kind of Western States being the original 100-miler, like it kind of, for me, that was always the ultimate race to win. And it was quite a journey to finally get it right in 2017, having raced it a couple of times before. And also, I guess, kind of my first Western States was 2012 when I came second to Timothy Olsen. And for me, that was probably still my best 100-miler run in terms of just everything seemed to flow during the day. Everything just went well. And I guess, as we know, with ultras, that doesn't happen too often. Generally, kind of lots does go wrong out there. But then after that, kind of had a couple of ups and downs. So to finally kind of get it right in 2017 was a dream come true. Like having Vanessa, my wife, there, and kind of son Max, and even my mom there. So like for me, it's still, if I look back at my career and look at kind of from a racing point of view, that was definitely kind of the highlight. And I guess the race itself was a lot tougher than expected. Obviously, in the early parts of the race, there was a lot of snow, but it was actually like really hot early on in the race. So you're running like through like lots of snow, but because they actually had a heat wave for like the 2 or 3 days leading up to the race, like there was a lot of snow melt. So your like feet were current, like, or your shoes, you're always like breaking through snow. A couple of times I nearly lost my shoes just because you like drop down so deep and you're slicing your shins up on ice and stuff. So it was really slow going early on. But I think luckily I kind of clicked into a bit of a groove quite early on, and found myself in second place. And I guess luckily, because Jim was so far ahead, I was able just to run my own race. Like I realized that there's no ways I was going to be keeping up with him if he continued at that speed. And yeah, I think kind of coming into Forest Hill, I'd always kind of got feedback that he wasn't looking great. I remember one of the first aid stations, my crew told me that Jim had sat down. And I was like, jeepers, that's a little bit early to be sitting down in 100-miler. So I knew he was pushing hard. And then I think it was going through Forest Hill, the 100K mark, I heard he had thrown up. And And then like just the feedback I was getting from the aid stations where I was just like really kind of catching up to him. And then, yeah, I guess then passed him at probably the hardest point of the race in terms of heat, just before the river crossing where it was really, really hot. It's about 130 kilometers into the race. And yeah, I guess for me, it was quite, I remember actually in 2012, it was a very similar area that I passed Timothy Olsen to go into the lead of the race. And as I kind of passed Jim, I wasn't feeling too good myself, and I was just thinking, Flip, don't let 2012 happen again, where I kind of passed Timothy and then he actually came past me again. So I had to like kind of dig like really deep those final 30 kilometers. And then even at the last aid station, got some conflicting reports where like I think there was a miscommunication on the radio, but suddenly I thought the second place runner, Alex Nicholas, was catching me. So there was kind of a last bit of panic. But yeah, luckily everything kind of aligned and managed to get to score in first place. So yeah, that definitely goes down as kind of a big highlight. And just I guess that the whole journey leading up to it, like a number of highs and lows, kind of having a stomach bug the 1 year, the day before the race, kind of spraining my ankle like a couple of weeks before the race, and then like having some good races there and bad races and stuff. So it was really cool to get it just to kind of make it all happen.
That's amazing. And speaking of the heat, just one last thing. Talk us through this T-shirt.
So I guess like one of the really cool things with Salomon, kind of being with them for 12 plus years is kind of the R&D department and guys at HQ like Serge that are just like so passionate about what they do. So yeah, that was a customized kind of vest that kind of got Serge cut holes in just to kind of add air flow and make it like as cool as possible. I think one of the things I learned from the race is definitely kind of being able to cool yourself down is really important. I mentioned previously that the 1 year I actually got a stomach bug just before or the day before the race, and I couldn't actually run, but I went and did watch the race from kind of Forest Hill onwards, and actually learned a lot just watching some of the like other competitors run through the aid stations and see exactly how they cool themselves down and that they use kind of ice hats and stuff like that. So that definitely kind of helped me in 2017 when conditions were quite tough. But yeah, going back to the holy vest, as I say, it's been rad to work with Salomon on some like specialist gear and just how they like always happy to think so outside the box. Like I know with Serge, like give him these like crazy ideas, and then like a few weeks later you get like something in the post that like kind of resembles what you were talking about. So it's really cool to kind of just see that process and be a part of it.
That's amazing. Cool. Thank you so much, Ryan. I think, that was an amazing intro. Really appreciate that. Now let's go to the main section of why we're here, the home run.
So Ryan, can you talk us a little bit through these numbers? They're pretty jaw-dropping, I would say. And that's a drone shot of your house, is that correct?
So it is actually one of the neighbors put up a drone. I didn't know at the time, but afterwards sent me a couple of photos and videos. But so obviously it was 100 kilometers. Ended up being a stupid amount of laps. And then about 4,500 meters of climbing. I've actually worked it out a bit more specifically, and I actually think it was kind of closer to 5,600 meters of climbing. Just the problem is kind of I ran through and up my entrance stairs, and there's a lot of concrete there. So when it came to GPS picking up the elevation the whole time, I think sometimes it would actually drop the elevation. So I think it was a little bit more, but I guess. And then the time it took 26 hours was definitely a lot slower than what I thought it would do. To be honest, like that's why I started at like 1:15 in the morning, or kind of I was aiming for 1, started a little bit late. And I thought I'd be able to kind of run through that morning or kind of early morning and kind of be able to finish kind of late evening the following day. And obviously didn't finish late evening, went into the early hours of the following morning. So it took a lot longer than I expected. I think it was just much slower going than I thought. Very stop start. I think kind of from that drone shot, you can see that kind of where I could run the flat part, like kind of on my front grass there. That was kind of the kind of only place where it was like a really free flowing. And then a lot of times it was quite like stop start, and even the stairs, they were like really small and quite awkward. So you could never get into like a full rhythm. So I think that made it like really tough. But then just mentally just running like loop after loop after loop, like the whole idea actually started off on the 1st of April. I put out an April Fool's joke saying like, today is a good day to run 100 miles in my garden. And I think for me, like it was a joke, because like I'm not one who kind of wants to run around in circles. Like I've never run on the track or anything like that. For me, it's about kind of getting out into the mountains or exploring. But then I guess it just got me thinking with lockdown and trying to make the most of like the situation. I thought that like kind of physically I thought I could do it, but I just thought like mentally, can I actually like run 100 miles in laps? Like I mentioned to you previously, before that, the furthest I'd run I think was like 10.5 Ks. I did an Iron Far virtual race. I think it was like literally 10.5 Ks that I'd run, and that felt like a very long way. Even just running that, my legs started to feel quite like heavy and tired just with the stop start and like unnatural running. So yeah, I guess that got me thinking like, flip, is this actually possible? So yeah, a couple of days before I actually did it, I kind of finally decided like, flip, let me give it a go. And again, I think it's just like important to realize that like if you think outside the box, like anything's possible. Like you can create a cool challenge or adventure for yourself, just being a little bit creative. It doesn't necessarily have to be like 100-mile race or running out in the mountains. And yeah, definitely I wouldn't rush back and do it again, but I was like looking back now on the experience, it's definitely like I'm quite proud of it. And yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it gives me like I guess a lot different perspective of my home, but also just a really unique experience being able to run so many like laps and have my family so involved, like see the neighbors get involved and support. I think it was like really cool and something like really different. And also like looking back at my career and when I kind of wrote the book I did, I kind of realized that it's often not those like big like race wins or kind of those achievements that really matter. Sometimes it's like the smaller things that really matter. And I think like looking back one day, like I think I'll really look back at this home run and kind of really cherish those moments, even though like for me the hardest part was the like final 40 Ks. I was getting quite disorientated, almost a little bit dizzy. I think the problem was when I went back into the night, I was running like every 50 meters I was kind of going from dark to light, and the stairs I was running up and down, they're made out of a white cement and the lights are quite bright. So I think my eyes just got completely like fried. Even for like 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, every time I looked down too much, I'd get a bit dizzy. And the next day I could hardly open my eyes. They were so sore. So from that point of view, like mentally, it was pretty tough.
Yeah, so that's really a great description of the course. I was going to ask you to give one, but you did a fantastic job. But I had a specific question. Did you ever keep track of the number of steps in total that you climbed? I know it was just flight of steps, but what was the total number if you know?
The total number of steps?
Yeah.
Oh, so I know
that I should say.
Oh, the stairs. So I know that there are 23 of them. So I think, I think when I looked back, it was a bit like, so if I go 23 times the 1,463.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I never counted it exactly, but yeah, they're kind of, I'm pretty familiar with those steps now.
And was it tougher for you going uphill or downhill with all the concrete?
I think it was actually tougher going down. Just as I mentioned, the stairs were quite small. Like, so it was hard to like kind of like step properly. Like it was almost like if you'd step like down, if you'd kind of step 2 steps, it almost felt like too short. But then if you try and go like 3 steps, it was too far. So it's just like, it was just awkward and uneasy the whole time. Like I say, it's not like you can just kind of get into a rhythm and just kind of like let the legs kind of take over. It was like always like very stop start the whole time.
Ryan, so I mean, with that kind of training, you know, that amount of steps, I think you're quite suited to maybe try another race in Hong Kong again.
Yeah, I'll definitely be pretty keen to get back to Hong Kong. But no, and I guess in South Africa, on a lot of our trails, we've got a lot of like rocky steps. So not like Hong Kong, obviously, where they're made out of concrete, but so quite used to steps. Like even if you look at Ultra Trail Cape Town, quite a lot of sections of the race, there are quite a few steps. So yeah, I guess I am used to those by now.
That's an interesting thought as well, because in your mind, I mean, you've been all around the world, you've gone through lots of trails. Do you see a trend of stairs being added to trails across the world now?
In certain areas, definitely see guys, like there are more stairs being added. But on a whole, probably not. Maybe around Cape Town. I guess it is certain areas, like I guess like in Asia, a lot of the places I run in, you see a lot more stairs. I know in South Africa, like a lot of areas they do create steps, I think just to avoid erosion. But if I look at say Europe and the US, generally their trails don't seem to have that many stairs. It's more kind of switchbacks, or they just kind of groom them.
Yeah, I guess it helps with, you know, snow and stuff. In Asia, lots of places, like in Hong Kong, there's no snow. So I guess it's, you know, to stop erosion, for example.
Yeah.
But going back to the home run, now you mentioned that, you know, it was extremely mental. It was a mental challenge. You did mention in Western States, it was great having your family there to support.
Yeah.
Now, how did it feel like here? You did have your family, but you can see in one of the pictures, you know, they're sleeping. How did it feel? Like you're running around the house and people are sleeping. What stopped you from saying, you know what, I'm going to take a shower and head to bed?
Yeah, I guess it was quite tough. Like I joked, actually, the picture there you can see where my son's sleeping and where I'm running, actually a few meters back, that's actually my bedroom. So literally running past your bedroom like every 100 meters or 110 meters was quite tough. Like it was amazing to have my like family there to support me, and Vanessa to like keep me going, especially when I mentioned that kind of final 30-40 kilometers was quite tough. But also I guess it kind of breaks up your concentration quite a bit. I guess like often in a long run or in a race, you're kind of out on the trails and you're able to get into your own headspace or zone, where like with this, you kind of running past your dining room table the whole time with food on and kind of stuff. It's just like always just like a break, like kind of you can't get into that kind of concentration. And then I guess also just running around and around in circles was tough. It just felt like it was going a lot slower than like what it should be. And I guess you realize that like a lap is so short. It's not, you don't really feel like you're achieving anything after like ticking off a lap, you know, like there's just so much to go. But I guess for me to get through it mentally, I kind of broke it up into kind of 4 40K sections. And then those 40K sections I broke down even further, like into 10K sections, and even like even further than that. So I think it's like, for me, it was just mentally to be able to get through this was kind of trying to just break it down to lots of bite-sized chunks. Otherwise, like 100 miles and you're talking about 1,400 odd laps, it's just like, yeah, like mentally it's too overwhelming. Yeah, and I guess also just trying to stay positive at the same time, and just I guess try and be as present as possible. I guess the nice thing with all of like doing this run, it was mentally very tough and challenging, but at least it was something I feel like I was able to control to a degree. Whereas I guess with the lockdown and the coronavirus, like we actually can't control anything. And even like chatting to you guys before we were live, like about UTMB and other events, it's like, I don't know, I just feel like everything's out of our control, where it was actually quite nice with this, that actually, yeah, it kind of sucks at the moment. Like I'm not feeling great, but I can actually control this. So at least I guess from that point of view, it was actually quite nice and refreshing.
And you mentioned like you're breaking this entire thing down to small chunks, which I'm assuming that you do in a 100-mile race as well. But how is this different?
Yeah, like I guess like people say like how would you compare it, like running something like this to a race? And I guess the nice thing for me, like obviously I think in my mind I thought it would take me about 18 hours, maybe 20 hours. I was never really racing anyone. It was more just to get it done. So I think that kind of pressure was out of the equation. There was never like times when like I was feeling really bad and it felt like flip. I've actually got to kind of try and drop the hammer and like kind of push. So it was just kind of getting it done. So I think from that point of view, it was quite relaxed. But it definitely was tough. Just I guess just doing all those loops and just, as I say, like just mentally just getting through that, where I just felt like, yeah, it just felt like so slow going, and you kind of like doing the maths and you like flip, this is like 26 hours something for 100 miles just seems way too slow. Like what am I doing here? And then as I said, that last 30-40 Ks was tough. Like I've done stuff like through the Himalayas where you get crazy sleep deprivation. But this was just like, I was disorientated. I was like really, really tired. Like I was almost like kind of freaking out a bit. But it was more just like mentally, just I think like just going around and around in circles for so long. Like I say, that was quite a challenge.
That's amazing because like you say, there was no competition. You're not racing, but at the same time, it's a bit of a double-edged sword because if there's no one pushing you, nothing's stopping you from actually stopping, right?
Yeah.
So did you have a mantra to sort of keep you going?
No real mantra, but I think when I started, like I knew I did want to like finish it. I think that's something for me. Like I love racing, but I think why like I often enjoy doing like kind of free running projects or the FKT projects, and even if it's not like a well-known FKT, it's just about kind of going out and trying to achieve an objective. I think for me, I love that like personal challenge of setting myself a goal, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to anyone but me if I achieve it. And I guess if we're completely honest about racing and stuff, at the end of the day, no one really cares how you do at a race except for you. And I guess it's even, look at the elite guys, like you do well in a race, it's cool, but after a few days, like everyone forgets about it. I think the most important thing is about you and that like self-fulfillment and achieving your goals. So I think for me, like when I set myself that goal of trying to achieve 100 miles, I think like there was no ways I was gonna stop. So I kind of knew that from really early on. I guess maybe that's why the last 30-40 Ks were so tough, because like I knew I wasn't gonna stop. I was just gonna keep going until I got it done.
Nice. Before we get into a bit of your nutrition tactics, I had just a couple of things. So one is, if, for example, you were given half the space that you currently have, would you still do the 100-mile, and how would you approach it?
Jeez, I think I definitely, beforehand, I would have definitely done it. I think if you ask me now, like after kind of what I'd learned from this, I guess, yeah, if you'd asked me that question the day or two after the 100-mile, I would say no. But I think now, luckily, I think I've got short-term memory. So like I've kind of, I guess, forgotten a lot of it. So I would do it again. Yeah, I think if I had to make, I guess, like any changes or how would I do it, I think the most important thing is just to find a lap that's like as flowing as possible. I think even like little things like So like I never actually ran on the grass, and that picture up in the top left hand corner, I was running on those like paving slabs. But even saying small like that, you're kind of jumping from one to the next. You're just not getting into like a nice smooth rhythm. So I think if I had to look at it, I'll try and look at like the smoothest course as possible. That's as like flowing as possible. That's like as little like kind of braking or kind of change in direction. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
It does. And the reason why I ask it is we've had quite a few friends of ours, in Malaysia, in Singapore and Hong Kong. And a few of them have done 80 Ks within like a 30-meter space. And yeah, it's pretty phenomenal what some of them have done. So that's why it's like interesting to see how the how the mind works in different ways, where it doesn't really matter sometimes what the space is.
Yeah, no, it's pretty, yeah. As I say, I definitely like recommend it. Like I say, it's definitely, I guess, maybe a few days after the run, I thought it was a stupid idea. But looking back on it now, it's definitely like, as I say, it's one of those experiences I'll definitely remember for a long time, and also kind of have a little bit of a chuckle to myself in terms of that. It was actually a lot harder than what I thought it would be.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, now let's talk gear and nutrition. Ian, go ahead.
I can see that you used a pair of trail shoes. Is that the Salomon Sense Ride 3 in the picture?
Yeah, so the trail shoes I went for were the Sense Ride 3s. Yeah, I guess my thinking behind that, I was thinking of using like a pair of the Sonics, the road shoes. But I just I really enjoy the rides, and I thought for 100 miles I actually used the same pair for the full run, just going up and down stairs, kind of like all the change in direction, and not like ever getting into like a full kind of flowing movement, that they would be like the best shoe. And I was actually really impressed with kind of like how I felt the whole time in them.
Would you consider using those for a proper 100-mile trail race? Just out of curiosity.
No, so I would. So those are the shoes I run the most in. Like obviously being involved with Salomon International, I do have some customized shoes, but it is like my customized shoes are very similar to the ride. So yeah, it's definitely kind of, especially the new rides or the ride 3s. I definitely I do currently doing most of my running in them, and would run 100 miles on those.
Yeah, and I saw you have a picture of yourself using 2 watches. Why is that?
So yeah, I guess as I mentioned, with all the concrete in the entrance, like the stairs going up and down, and running such tight laps, I just wanted to try and kind of have as accurate data as possible. So yeah, I thought just having 2 watches also, I guess, if kind of one stopped working or something like that, because I wasn't actually kind of physically counting all the laps.
Right. And
I had a question
picture,
regarding your watches actually. Did they show the same exact data at the end? Pretty curious about that.
They were pretty close. As I said, the elevation was a bit out, but the actual distance was pretty close. So yeah, I was quite impressed with that, especially like doing all the small little laps the whole time.
And I had a question about your nutritional setup. So that looked like the makeshift aid station you had in your kitchen or in your house.
Yeah.
What did you eat or drink during the entire project or challenge?
Yeah, I guess luckily for the first time, like I had an aid station just about right in my kitchen, or it was quite close. So yeah, I used a variation. I was also trying to test out like some nutrition as well. So I've been testing out some of the Spring Energy gels. So I used some of those, but then also just use stuff like some whole foods, like just like fruit, some bananas, what else to have, like some apple, some watermelon, and then also stuff like sandwiches. I kind of also tested out some bone broth, and actually even for like dinner, actually stole some of Max's food, my son's food. He was eating spaghetti bolognese, so I ate some of that. So it was cool that I could have a lot of whole food, and then yeah, I guess kind of some Red Bull and water as well when just especially that kind of second night, just to try and keep awake. So I had like a really good variety of food. So yeah, I think I probably put on weight during the run as opposed to losing weight.
And Ryan, how is this different from a normal nutrition strategy? What would it be like in a race for you?
Yeah, probably a lot more kind of calculated and prepared in a, if I say in like a normal, I mean in a race. Like I said, actually kind of was only a few days beforehand that I decided to do this, and obviously with lockdown, weren't able to like kind of access too much stuff. But I just kind of, I guess, dumped a lot of stuff on the dining room table, and then kind of told, like, it was nice in terms of like every 110 meters I'd run past the dining room table, and I could say to Vanessa, like, I'm actually feeling like this or that, where I guess when you're out doing a race, that's not the case. So I had a lot more variety, and I was testing a few more things. And as I also mentioned, like, because I guess you're not pushing as hard as in a race, I was able to test more stuff. So yeah, I guess just a lot more choice. Probably most of the races, I'd probably have a lot more liquids and kind of gels and stuff, just easier to carry and access. So yeah, but I also, I guess, have been trying to experiment with eating more whole foods. Like ever since I ran the Himalayas with Reno, I've been battling a bit with my stomach. So looking at more whole foods and stuff like spring energy and stuff like that. Just it's a bit more gentle on my stomach.
That's really nice. And speaking of the Himalayas, I think now because we know we have about 6 minutes left. I want to dive into a little bit about projects outdoors in the future. And this is a screenshot I took that you posted yesterday. It's a map. I don't know where it is. Could you maybe give us a bit of a secret on what's in the pipeline?
Yeah, I guess. Well, that map's actually of the Cedarburg, so it's a kind of wilderness area just outside of Cape Town. So yeah, I think as soon as kind of we're allowed to run in national parks, definitely be heading out there. But we have plans in the pipeline. Towards the end of last year, I did a project in Namibia along the Skeleton Coast, but it's actually a continuous project. So hoping to go back there again towards the end of the year, October, November. Again, also like a lot depends on lockdown, but you know, going back there to like finish off part of the run along the Skeleton Coast. So as I mentioned, like I think for me, I love racing, but racing's not what kind of got me into the sport. I think it's that kind of quest for adventure, or just enjoying adventure and the unknown, and being able to run in different places. So yeah, I'm definitely like always dreaming up kind of new ideas and things to do. So yeah, I guess, as I said, a future plan, like the next big project is to finish off the Skeleton Coast project. But I guess with the lockdown and stuff, I'll just be pretty happy to get out onto Table Mountain and go for a run there.
Yeah, we take what we can at the moment. We were talking to Lucy Bartholomew last week, and even she's saying, yeah, we have to do what we can at the moment. But going back to your think about adventure, we had a question related to your GHT with Reno.
Yeah.
And it was about what your mindset was when you set out there knowing that there might not be any tea houses or there might not be any accommodation. Like, how did you even begin to prepare for that?
Yeah, I guess like that was extremely difficult. And I guess also like we did a lot of like planning and stuff on maps, but due to the late winter, like a lot of stuff changed, and there were areas that were supposed to have like more that should have had like more smaller villages, actually didn't have anything there. So it was difficult, and I think like for me, if I look back at the project, it's just like kind of how amazing the Nepalese people are. Just how like you literally, there'd be a little like village of 4 houses, and you could knock on one of the doors at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, and they'd let you in, like give you their beds, make you food. Just I don't know, you don't kind of really find that anymore. So that was just like really incredible, and like I don't think Raina and I would be here if it wasn't for that generosity, because at times we were pretty stranded. It was really high up at altitude. It was really cold. Like we didn't have tents and stuff like that. So it was difficult to plan. Probably like looking back now, as I said, especially the Dolfa region, was quite like scary at times. Just realizing that, well, I guess it just makes you realize how insignificant humans are. Even though maybe you think you can run 100 miles fast, it means nothing in the greater scheme of things when you're in big mountains. Like, so I guess it was in some ways pretty cool, but also quite frightening at times. And like I said, just so grateful for the Nepalese people and just how like welcoming and friendly they were. And like for me, that's probably the biggest takeout from the project.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you try to knock on someone's door over here, in Singapore, any city at 3 a.m., it's probably going to be big trouble.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're close to running out of time. Maybe, Ian, do you want to share a little bit about Ryan's socials and the book?
Yeah, so just before that, I had a question at GHT actually that came in from a viewer. Is there a particular off the beaten track section of the trail that you recommend to someone just looking to get a taste of the region?
I really enjoyed the first part of it. So really kind of the trail on the western border, and it's not like a big like known like touristy area. So I'd quite recommend like going west. I think kind of central, when you go more central and east, that's quite like touristy when you get to like the Annapurna region and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely kind of the western section on the Tibetan border. That's somewhere like I'd really like to go, like really pretty as well, but just like off the beaten track. And I think it just gives you like a really nice feel of what Nepal is about. Like parts of the Annapurna were like amazing, but I almost felt at times like it was quite surreal because we went from the Dolfa region into the Annapurna region, and where like Dolfa was like nothing there, whereas you kind of go into Annapurna and you're going through one or two sections and it's like almost feels like kind of a little bit like Europe at times. So I definitely think kind of more the kind of western border would be my recommendation.
Cool, thanks for that. And so everyone, here are Ryan's socials. You can follow him on Instagram, Facebook, Strava, and he has his own website. Now, if people have any more questions after this, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, I guess probably either through my website or even I think on Instagram, maybe just sending me a mail is probably the best. I check that quite regularly, or even just Ryan at ryansands.com. I think that's probably the best way to track me down. But as I say, on my website there is a little question thing. So on that I would say is the best.
Nice. And Ryan has also written a book, Trailblazer. If you haven't checked it out already, I really recommend it. It's a great read on how Ryan first got started out and got to where he is today. And it's got quite a few humorous anecdotes inside it as well. So thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, I want to be respectful of your time, Ryan. I know you have somewhere else to be after this. So congratulations again on home run. And thanks for being such an inspiration to all of us and showing us what's possible even under current circumstances. It's truly inspiring and a mindset and attitude I think we all can learn from. So we want to wish you all the best for your upcoming rest of the season, whether it's a race or another epic adventure like the Skeleton Coast. And thanks again.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks for great chatting, and hopefully see you soon in Europe or out on the trail somewhere.
Sure. Thanks, Ryan. And thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks guys.
Bye.